But if it's not,
Okay.
you can raise it or lower it here. You probably need to raise it.
Yeah.
Someone before you might have it way down.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Press here, but down. As I always said, I had a PhD in students.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started in about 30 seconds. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our council meeting on November 24th. I'll start today with a territorial acknowledgement. I would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather, land on which we are broadcasting from today, is the land traditionally cared for by the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Chinootan people. We also acknowledge the enduring presence and deep traditional knowledge and philosophies of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today. And just briefly, I'd share that a couple of weeks ago, I went with a member of my family to the Mohawk Institute in Brantford to tour what is referred to as a residential school. It was a deeply moving experience, and a great learning opportunity for me for the 3 or 4 hours that I spent there. And I certainly, if people have the time to do that, it's well worth the opportunity to go. And certainly, I learned a great deal about the truth of what was happening in the the very recent past at that location. So just thought that I would share that, and I appreciate everyone who involved who worked really hard on the Save the Evidence campaign, and who have kept that building and renovated it so that it stands as a testament to the horrors of that system. So just wanted to share that this afternoon. A moment of reflection. At the beginning of this council meeting, we paused to think about the needs of our community. May we show wisdom and compassion in all our decisions. Council, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interests and the general nature thereof? Seeing none, is there someone to approve the minutes? Moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Roach. All in favor? That is carried. There's one item on consent. Anyone prepared to move the consent agenda? Moved by Councillor Hanmer, seconded by Councillor Freeman. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much for that. Okay, moving on to the staff reports. We have the first one is the delegation of authority bylaw. And we have, I believe, Jeff Daly, new lawyer, is going to make some remarks about this. Welcome, Jeff. I don't know how familiar you are with that podium, but there is, to your left, there's a way to move it up. Nope. Oh, Bob's going to help you there. Okay, thank you.
Very good.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Like you said, my name is Jeff Daly, and one of the new assistant city solicitors. The nature of the report before you is an update to the current delegation of authority bylaw. This is a mandatory policy under the Municipal Act. It hasn't been updated since 2017, And so this is an update to sort of bring the bylaw up to a current standard, make it a little bit easier to read and interpret, and to update many of the sort of antiquated portions of the current bylaw, as well as to make requests for 3 new delegations of authority, all of which were set out in the staff report for your review. So in particular, we're looking staff are looking for a delegation of authority bylaw to sign grant agreements that are necessary to enforce sort of the requirements of grant funding that the city is giving out. And that's related to the multi-unit residential acquisition program that was recently approved by council. Staff require the authority to sign those grant agreements in order to enforce the terms of the grants that are being given out. There's going to be a call, as I understand it, for applications in the new year, and so this is a key piece of authority that's required in order to actually administer that program. In the staff report that was provided to council when that came, I think it was in June, they had acknowledged at that point that the request for the authority to sign those grant agreements was going to come through this process. The remaining amendments to the policy are to recategorize the way the schedules have been put together. So where they had been put together by department in the past, they're now put together by class of document. This is designed to make it a little bit easier for everyone to understand who does and who does not have authority to sign documents. And it's also designed to make the policy a little bit more resistant to structural and organizational change in the future. So if there's a reorganization, names of positions change, names of commissions or departments change, we won't have to update the bylaw. Just the way that it's been drafted will sort of allow it to continue without amendment. Another of the significant amendments that we've made is to remove duplicate authority. So where council has provided authority in other policies and bylaws, we've pulled that out of the delegation of authority bylaw with the intent of making sure that we don't have discrepancies between 2 different bylaws or policies that grant authority. And that's designed to make sure that everyone is clearly understanding what authority there is for staff to execute documents and where to find it. The amendments that we're asking for, other than the 3 new requests for authority, do not have the effect of granting any additional authority to staff, and we are anticipating a further amendment to this bylaw coming back in 2026 to sort of reallocate some of the authority that's in this bylaw that staff think could be more efficiently housed elsewhere. But that's, we'll see when those reports come forward, hopefully in the first quarter of 2026. So that's all I have for the opening remarks. I'll turn it back to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Council, are there questions regarding this report and these changes? Okay, I'm seeing none. Your report and your explanation here were thorough. Okay, thanks very much, Jeff. So given that, then, if there's no questions, then I'll just look. There's 2 recommendations here. Is someone prepared to move those? Moved by Councillor Freeman, seconded by Councillor Rowe. All in favor? That is carried. Or sorry, Councillor Roach, was your hand up? Okay, carried unanimously then. I wasn't sure if you were waiting for the in opposed. Okay, thanks very much, Jeff. So the next, moving right along, the next report here is Road Safety Countermeasures and Traffic Calming Implementation Plan 2025. The report is by Ainsley Rigo, but Bob, but Mr. Henderson, did you want to start with some opening remarks?
I did, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. I'm pleased to present the city's 2nd annual Road Safety Countermeasures and Traffic Calming Implementation Plan. It's a plan to strengthen our commitment to building a Waterloo where no one is killed or seriously injured on our roads. This strategic roadmap reflects our responsibility to enhance the lives of the people who live, work, and visit Waterloo. Over the past year, we have made significant progress. This year's plan will accelerate the momentum by advancing the road safety and traffic calming measures already set in motion, while introducing new evidence-based initiatives designed to further improve safety across our city. The groundwork we have laid will result in measurable improvements in the years ahead. At the same time, we must recognize and address new challenges. The province's recent decision to prevent municipalities from using automated speed enforcement represents a significant setback, particularly for protecting children in our school zones. Despite this, our commitment has not changed. City staff are prepared to respond decisively by developing alternative, effective traffic calming solutions to replace automated speed enforcement in our school zones. We're moving forward with the development of a comprehensive plan, which we intend to bring forward to Council in the near future. Together, we will be shaping a safer Waterloo. Finally, I would like to thank Jenny Renault, Ainsley Rigo, and Hayden Kozner for their hard work and dedication in putting this plan together. Thank you, and Jenny, Ainsley, and I are here to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much to everyone involved. Council, are there questions about this report? Councillor Rowe?
Thank you so much for the comprehensive report and for all the work that has gone into this approach and the measures that are already being implemented. I do have a couple of questions. They're ward specific. So I'm wondering regarding the 2024 network screening collision countermeasures on table 6, I'm just looking at well, actually, and this goes for 2025 as well. I'm looking at the upcoming Columbia Street reconstruction project that is being led by the region. So I'm wondering if those projects for 2025 will align with that, and as well then any of the projects that are listed as not feasible, is there a potential for them to be feasible in the future or through that reconstruction project?
Thank you, Councillor. Through the Mayor to the Councillor. Good question. And we do our best to try and coordinate as many existing projects as we can. This one in particular is driven by a water main, and with that, they're not actually moving any curbs or anything. It's just within the right of way. So we're doing as much as we can in terms of active transportation and pavement markings. Some of the things that are in our report are outside of the scope of that project, so they're not included. However, we do have them on our books, and if and when an EA or an environmental assessment or a reconstruction project comes along for Columbia, they will be part of that. Columbia is a pretty tricky street. We don't have a lot of right-of-way, so it's going to be property acquisitions and all those things that are going to come into play. But we do as much as we can within the existing.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Vasic.
Thanks through Mayor. These measures look really great for Ward 5. I think lots has been done in that ward, so I thank you for all that work over the years. My specific question is about Auburn. So I really appreciate the historical context of Auburn in this report. I think it's going to be useful for every council member here, should they have read it. And if not, I would recommend that everyone go back to read it. It's like half a page, but it really shows that staff years ago had recommended traffic circles and to council, and they were going to go in, but the community rallied against it and petitioned. That doesn't say that, I don't think, in here, the petition, but that is what happened. There was a petition, and came and requested that council not do this in spite of the advice from staff. So staff came back with another recommendation instead, and there were no traffic circles. And so funnily enough, when I was campaigning, some people were proud of that had happened, but most people wanted traffic calming, but they didn't want the traffic calming exactly how staff recommended it. And so it's really a good example to point to, and there's another in the ward with stop signs, that when staff make recommendations, that there's good reason for us to heed them quite seriously, because you are engineers and traffic planners, and so you have some real expertise. And so good news is that other measures are going in here, because it continues to be an area where I have a question. I just wanted to highlight this because I think it's really important. And anyways, so it continues to be an area. And so I think we need to think about how we respond to public pressure. And of course, we need to balance things that are of high community interest, but we also need to balance the expertise of staff. And it's maybe 20 years later, 15 years later, and it's still a high demand for traffic calming, and you're putting stuff in here. So a lesson learned, I hope. But my question is not about Auburn north of University, between University and University is where it connects, which is where the measures are approved for and where the traffic calming circles were previously recommended. And that's not what's going in now, but there is a lot of talk from residents from south of Auburn. It was one of the first community meetings I had, actually, with residents from south of Auburn, some and also north, but and I continue to get reached out to from those residents. So my curiosity is if anything might be considered in that area or looked into. I know we prioritize using the data, but given I just hear about it a lot, if we can just talk a little bit about how we might be able to draw on the community voices, and then also how we use that data. And then in particular, someone who was advocating for that had mentioned that as much as data is objective or more objective, it can sometimes miss equity considerations, and even worse, it can sometimes reinforce inequities. And so I'm just curious if there is going to be any considerations of equity, because sometimes when we say, oh, we use objective data, we say we don't need to do those equity considerations. So curious if you're going to be considering equity, and in particular income, but others as well, as you do more work. So about Auburn, but also equity. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't know which one of you wants to take that. You, Jenny? Okay.
Thank you, through the mayor, to Councillor Vasic. So thank you for those points and that insight. To the first question about Auburn South, and you're right, we do use a data-driven, evidence-based process to identify the hot spots or areas where interventions are most needed. It doesn't mean that we don't take residents' concerns and emails and requests aside. We do take those in and we do take them seriously. They live there, they eat, sleep, breathe their neighborhood. So we take that seriously into consideration. I'd like to take the Auburn South back specifically and have a look at where that may stand in our network screening. To the second part about diversity, while yes, as again, what we, our process that we use is meant to be equitable in terms of just being a data-driven. We understand that there are different lenses to look through, and so we'd also like to take that back, but we do understand that it's another lens for us to look at when we do our analysis.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vasic. Councillor Wright.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. First of all, I want to thank you for this report and all the extra meetings and time that you've devoted, especially to the uptown neighborhoods who really campaign along with me on the Vision Zero strategy of no deaths from our pedestrian population. I just am looking for a point of clarification. In the statistics of the 2,808 collisions, the 71 pedestrian collisions, 54 cyclist collisions, can I assume that these are City of Waterloo only, that they are exclusive of Region of Waterloo roads?
Through the mayor to the councillor, that is correct.
Okay, thank you for that. And then my question to follow up on that is, all of our neighborhoods are bisected by regional roads, and we saw in the report areas where transportation has reached out to Region of Waterloo staff on particular issues. I'm just wondering if you can speak to that collaboration a little bit so that we can better understand how you work with the region in order to get the desired effects on our regional roads, especially where they are bisecting neighborhoods.
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mayor McCabe, to Councillor Wright. So we have ongoing meetings with our regional counterparts. We are continuously collaborating at the Traffic Coordinating Committee. We are working together to share data, and in fact, we're strategizing on populating a new form of information data that accounts for all collisions on regional roads, local roads, and provincial roads to better understand what's going on in the broader community. But where we see issues on regional roads that are brought to our attention, we'll certainly speak to our counterparts at the region and work on solutions to those issues. So there's continuous dialogue going on almost every day.
Go ahead, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, just one more follow-up. I really appreciate that. I mean, both Jen and I have collaborated on the Weber Street crossing that finally was implemented by the region, and it really did take all of us to make that happen. So I really appreciate the work that you do to help back up that case for residents of the city of Waterloo. My follow-up question has to do with the 71 pedestrian collisions. Do we see any specific clustering of that? Like, are there particular areas where this is happening? Like, I know that our PXOs are prioritized, but are we seeing specifically, you know, a pattern emerge in a geographic way?
I'll let the others speak to any details that they're aware of at this time, but we do see in the broader data some consistencies in where pedestrian collisions occur. They generally occur at intersections, mainly primarily signalized intersections and heavier volume intersections. To speak to some of the more specific locations, I'll defer that to Jenny and Ainsley.
A lot of our hotspot locations are along the Columbia Street corridor and near the university. There's a lot of pedestrian activity in that area, so that's where we are seeing the clustering mostly right now.
Thank you. Did you have a follow-up to that, Councillor Wright? Okay. Councillor Hanmer.
Thank you very much, through you, Mayor, to the staff. Thank you so much for the report. I always enjoy reading this and seeing the progress that we are making with some of the safety measures that we've put in place. And Councillor Wright did ask one of my questions, so I'll pass on that one. I do have one question, two questions actually, that are more ward specific, and around Urbsville Court and the issues with the KW bilingual school. So I guess my question may be more a general one to you. Talk about temporary speed bumps going in, and I recognize we were trying to do other measures there, but could you share with us just why we do temporary things and why it's not a more permanent that's going to happen in that area?
Through the mayor to the councillor, great question. That school in particular was on our list for the automated speed camera with the news. And so with that, we're sort of already in the works of what else can we do and what can we do. And Bob alluded that a larger plan is going to be in place, not just for those schools, or this one in particular, but for all the schools in our area. The reason why we do temporary is I can get them out a whole lot quicker. To do permanent speed humps, there's a design process, a tender process, construction process, and so that's a 1 to 2 year. And so we have actually in our operations yard, there's a bunch of temporary. So we're looking to actually utilize some of the material we already have to get things out a little bit faster. And you know, it gives us a great opportunity to do some, you know, before and after studies also to see how well those are even working and if that's even the right measure to put in that place.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that, and I also appreciate the collaboration that happens on trying things. And in this particular school, we've met numerous times with the staff and the principal in particular to try to improve the safety all the way around that particular school. My second question, if I might, is there are also throughout the entire city other areas that are hotspots for traffic. I'll use the one in my ward, Westvale and Thorndale drives and the speedways that those streets happen to be. I know we're only looking at 2026. Can you reassure us or let us know what the plans are for some of these other hotspot areas throughout the city?
Through the mayor to the councillor, when they come up on the screening through the network analysis, that's when we would kind of look to focus on those streets in those areas. I'd have to go back and look at those ones in particular, but we do look at it from a citywide basis on an annual. So council will get this type of report that on it every year to say what streets have popped up every year and then what we can do the following year or the next 2 years after.
And that helps us prioritize what we're doing.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Other questions from council? Councillor Freeman.
Through you, Mayor McCabe. Like others, I appreciate the report. I know that you put down speed counting and volume and total kilometers per hour cars are moving on, I'm going to say, neighborhood roads. Is there ways to see that data? Like, can the community look at it, or can it be provided kind of on a like when you are done looking at it, is it something you can share with us? Because I know that my neighbors know when the counters are down. And I know that we routinely check, say, on Lee Avenue and Whitmore and that kind of thing. And I know that people would really like to see that data, because visually, if you're a pedestrian in that space and you see a car go by, you're sure they're going 100. When in essence, when we have gone and done the counts, oftentimes they're going 40 or something. It's just that depth of field kind of thing when you're in the space. So, because I know that this report is really just a snapshot of all of the stuff your department's working on. And so it would be really great. And I know that you're also regularly looking at warrants for places like on University Avenue, in and around Rim Park. There's a lot of emails that come through around that. And again, I guess if there's just some way that we can share that data, I don't even know whether it's another page on our city website or something like that, just to help let people know that you're always looking at this data, and that when warrants are triggered, that you're acting on it.
Looks like Mr. Henderson wants to take that one.
Yeah. So thank you, through you, Mayor McCabe, to Councillor Freeman. Yes, we're always continually taking in data. We're taking steps to actually work with the region to take steps to share collision data. And your suggestion to share speed data that we're collecting is something that we can certainly take back. I don't see a problem with sharing that information, like more broadly. That's something that we can take back and look at.
And was part of your question, Councillor Freeman, about the the potential to put that data on our city website, like under ward information? Is that what you were thinking? I just didn't know if
There's any
Carrie Van
number of
Niekerk
ways.
wanted to respond.
Like,
Sorry, go
there's
ahead.
any number of ways. I mean, I'm happy to share it on Facebook links with my neighborhood. I just know people are interested in it. In my neighborhood, some of the roads that people consistently believe that there's a lot of high speeds are Old Abbey. They're kind of like what Councillor Hanmer said, like you have these through streets that go between a major right-of-way, like Ira Needles and Fisher Hallman in your case, or in my case, it's Eastbridge Boulevard and Chesapeake, and you know, folks are going from University Ave over to Bridge Street. They're going through the subdivision, and they're in a hurry. And similarly, when Lexington Road has something going on it, Whitmore becomes a really popular alternative. Or they don't want to wait for the right turn at Lexington and Davenport at 5 o'clock at night, because there might be 3 cars ahead of them. And so this is Waterloo's traffic congestion. And so they cut through the neighborhoods, and they do so at a high rate of speed because perhaps they're frustrated. And I just know that we collect that data. It would be really helpful. I think people think it happens all the time. I think it actually happens a lot less than they believe. You know, you always see the bad actors. You don't see the folks that are not exceeding the speed limits,
So I guess we'll leave that with you, Bob, and perhaps Carrie Van Niekerk, to just see what might be possible or make sense to put online, or at least have links to. Did you have a follow-up to that? Nope, okay.
No, I'm just saying there's a number of avenues.
Sure. Okay. Are there any other questions from council? Because I had a couple, but thank you. Some of you have already asked my questions. One of my questions, though, just to pick up on your comment, Councillor Freeman, about congestion, was where it says a couple places about congestion and reducing congestion. What do you mean by congestion in Waterloo? Because I mean, I know there's some streets that are very busy for short periods of time, you know, maybe in the morning and then again in the evening, but what does congestion, could you define that? Because it's certainly different than, when I think of congestion, I think of Toronto traffic, but yeah, could you just, I'm just curious what your definition of that is.
Thank you for the question. Congestion, in our opinion, really means a comparison between actual travel times, unimpeded travel times versus travel times that are longer as a result of congestion. And that's generally measured through delay or time. The congestion that we see in the city of Waterloo is concentrated around Columbia Street. You may have seen some comments in the report about congestion on Columbia Street and the need to work with our partners at the Regional Waterloo to look at the signal timing to ensure they're optimized in a manner that attempts to reduce congestion and get that traffic moving in a uniform speed throughout the corridor. So I'm hoping that's answering your question.
Okay, yeah, I mean, yeah, it does. I guess congestion just feels like almost overstating, really. Like, it depends what you're comparing it to. In my mind, I was thinking like, you know, the 401 in Toronto, and that's congestion. Here we have some delays, but I was also curious about what the UW and City of Kitchener project, it was referred to a couple of times. What is that project?
Sure, I can take that one. So the city is working with the University of Waterloo in their engineering department, as well as City of Kitchener, and so it's one of our joint initiative projects. And this is part 2, this is year 2 of the work, and what we're doing is there are different methods of collecting, analyzing, and making recommendations for road safety. So right now we use collision data, speed data. We're looking into, with a grant with the federal, we're looking at harsh braking and harsh acceleration in one project. This one with the City of Kitchener is looking at using cameras and looking at near misses and looking at different types of conflicts, specifically at targeted intersections. And so it's a different way for us to look at what's going on and how and what intersections need the work and what type of countermeasures are going to be recommended. So that's this specific project.
Okay, thanks for that. That's helpful. The other question I had was just about, there was references made to Keatsway School, or Keatsway and Amos, because that was one of the schools that had the automatic speed camera program. So is that an area that you'll be looking to put some temporary speed bumps in, or something sort of relatively quickly? I know we're waiting to hear from the province about how much of the $42 million we're getting or not getting, as the case may be, but
that one in particular is going to be part of the larger group, the first stage of the larger group of what are we doing with all the schools. It may not be, I don't know if I'm going to get something in the ground in 2026, but we're going to look for opportunities, but we have to look at it from a kind of a bigger lens, I think, for this particular one.
okay. I mean, that's just one that I know was a real concern, particularly when we looked at the speeding data that came in from the regional program. Did you? Okay, yeah, and so, I mean, there's the 4 schools particularly that are a real problem, St. Nick's, Keatsway, I'm forgetting them off the top of my head. You guys probably know them, but like that, those obviously I think need to be a priority for us since the speed cameras are no longer with us. I see that Councillor Hanmer wanted to comment on that.
Thank you. Specifically Amos and Keatsway, just anecdotally, the 4-way stop is in, and it's causing some angst at the moment as people are getting used to it. It's been there for a couple of weeks, I think, but I think it is starting, at least from one side as you're coming towards Keatsway School. It will help as long as people stop.
Well, obeying the rules of the road is pretty important, particularly around where young people are. Oh, sorry, and Councillor Rowe, did you want to comment on that? Okay. And just a couple other things. The pedestrian crossovers that you mentioned at Father David Bauer Drive, because I was out to speak with residents of Luther Village, and, you know, they're an older population. They're obviously, how soon because they were quite interested in getting a signalized intersection or pedestrian crossover there. Like, can you share what the timing of that might be?
The first one is being constructed kind of as we speak, the one that's right outside the bale yards.
Yeah.
The other two are in the next round of design, so I'm hoping for design to be completed in '26, and then depending on budget and resources, installation of the other two in 2027.
Okay, okay, all right, yeah, because they're quite anxious to get that, to get those in place. And then my last question, well, sorry, second last question. For new roads that are being designed, like I'm thinking Beaver Creek, the Beaver Creek development or other places where we have to put in new roads, are they being redesigned so that we won't need all these traffic calming measures? Like they'll be designed so that drivers have to slow down automatically?
Great question, and yes, absolutely. So we work with our planning department and others in engineering right from the very beginning of development application and the developers for the larger communities to work on traffic calming within that development itself. And every time there's a new road reconstruction in the city, that's part of the design now is built in. Is any type of traffic calming. So Beaver Creek and Conservation, there are PXOs, there are narrowed roadways, there are median islands, roundabouts, those are all being built up right up front.
Okay, great. And then my last question, just with the pedestrian crossovers that we have and any that we install, I'm just curious what it would cost to actually signalize them. I'm asking the same thing at the region because, you know, I know, like particularly regional roads, they're 4 lanes wide, but and even some of our, you know, Keats Way is a little wider and that, like it just, you know, you see people sometimes trying to cross at these pedestrian crossovers and, you know, particularly if you have young children or maybe you have some mobility issues, like, I mean, you just watching the way people are trying to gauge how quickly they can get across because often the drivers are maybe not slowing down very much, or it doesn't feel like they're slowing down. So just, it feels like it would be a lot safer if those were all signalized so that the drivers do see that, you know, that someone's going to be crossing. So I'm just curious if that's something that could be built into at least the costing of these pedestrian crossovers.
Okay, good.
At the outset.
Yeah, so a good question. So just to build upon that and provide some context, like a pedestrian refuge island, uncontrolled, typically costs about $25,000 to install that. A level 2 pedestrian crossover, which we found out through the course of trying to tender out our design and construction project to install level 2 pedestrian crossovers, have increased significantly. The cost to install those have almost tripled over the last few years. And as part of this contract have come in at roughly about $80,000 to $100,000 a pedestrian crossover. A signalized intersection, depending on the size of the intersection, can cost about $150,000 to $175,000.
Well, I meant a signalized pedestrian crossover. Sorry if I wasn't clear.
Like a level 2 pedestrian crossover.
Yeah.
With flashing beacons.
Yeah.
So what we found out through this design and construction contract was that they're coming in at about $85,000 per location.
Okay. Thanks for that information. What does a speed bump cost? Like not the temporary ones that Jenny was talking about, like a.
Through Jenny, she's advising me they cost about $8,000.
Okay. So, okay, great. Those are expensive. Yeah, it just makes me even more upset that the automatic speed camera program was ended because it was a lot less expensive and a lot more efficient, but that's a whole other story. Okay, we won't go down that road, no pun intended. Okay, thanks very much for this. Are there any other questions from council? Seeing none, this was here for information, so I'll just look for Councillor Hanmer will move that and Councillor Freeman will second it to receive this report for information. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thanks very much to you all. So the next item here, actually, while you're switching over, I'll just make a public service announcement that if people do have concerns about high rates of speed or what are perceived high rates of speed in their neighborhoods, they can always report it to the Waterloo Regional Police Service. There's a traffic reporting form online. So go there and report it and keep reporting it and keep reporting it, and they will send staff out to look to address it. Okay, the next item is the implementation update on the 10-point US tariff response plan. There's a report here prepared by Tracy Bell and some other members of our director staff. I don't see that there's any opening remarks, but Councillor, are there any questions about this report? There are, so we're going to look for Tracy, and I see Francis, who are here. Thanks very much. Councillor Wright.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Just curious about, this is, still fairly recent, but the non-exemption of tariffs for small shipments under $800. This is something that I would imagine would deeply impact small and medium-sized enterprises. And so this has only been in place, I think, since the end of August. So I'm just curious whether we've had any feedback on that locally, whether we're hearing through our stakeholder networks that this is having a big impact or not.
Over to you, Tracy.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Wright. From a procurement standpoint, we're not receiving any feedback. I'm looking back behind me to Justin, if in his network, if he's received any feedback. Nope, nothing at all on that.
Thanks. I was just curious because that's one area that is definitely focused, a tariff that impacts small and medium-sized enterprises, and just noting that replacing the U.S. business with other markets would obviously be an important diversification measure. So I was curious whether there was any feedback on that. The only other thing that sort of came up for me, I think, is the tax deferral plan. And again, we haven't had any uptake on that, and just curious whether there was any feedback again from stakeholders on the design of the tax deferral program.
Thank you for that question. Oh, we'll go to Commissioner Reynolds.
Yes, thank you for the question, Councillor Wright. Paul isn't here with us today, but no, we had not received any feedback on the plan, and we certainly hoped that through our communication process that folks were aware of it, but just simply didn't take advantage of the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Wright. Are there any other questions from members of council? I had a couple. Well, just a comment to start with, just that the $43 million that the city spends with local suppliers is I mean, it's a big number, and it's really great to have that quantified. And 41% of that 43 million is spent locally, so that's a significant impact. But one thing that if you could just, I wasn't quite clear on, I think it's a wording thing. It says we did have to pay tariffs on 7 trucks, but I wasn't clear if it was $3,500 or $1,500 per unit.
Through you, Mayor, to yourself. I just want to double check my.
I just found the language of that really confusing, and I wasn't sure what you meant.
I don't want to misspeak. My understanding was it was 1,500. Yes, it was $1,500 US in tariffs for each truck.
Okay, because there was a reference to 3,500. What was that for then?
That was what the tariff cap we had with the manufacturer was. So the most they would charge us would have been $3,500, but it came in at $1,500.
Okay, I got you. Okay, thanks for that. And then I'm also interested in, I know Justin McFadden's here, about the Tariff Impacted Communities Program. Have we had a response to that, to the province yet, to our application? Or can you also, in addition to asking if we know when to expect a response from them, and hopefully a favorable response, but just what's been happening with that program and between us and or your office and the Accelerator Center?
Yes, to you, Mayor. We've had communication with the province, our local rep at the province, and she's been doing a good job keeping us updated. It's still in the review process. I think they had quite a response in terms of submissions, and so I actually chatted with her this morning and still under review. She had provided a little bit of input from her side a couple of weeks ago to the folks in Toronto. No decision has been made at this point.
Okay. And has there work that's been happening between the Accelerator Center and us? Or is there activity that's already happening despite, while we wait for the provincial response?
Yes, so we've basically got kind of a plan A and a plan B. So plan A if we get approved and a plan B if we don't. And so we've got sort of different timelines that we're looking to activate with them in either direction.
Okay. And since you're here, maybe you could just share once again, because we want, about the Support Local program that the city's running through our Economic Development Department.
Yeah, sure. So we launched...
For the thousands of listeners and viewers here.
That's right. So yeah, you can go to our website, or the city's website to find a few more details, but we've got a very robust Support Local program. We partnered with our communications team to develop, and we've been rolling it out over the last 6 weeks. So there's hundreds of companies that have received the packages. There's all kinds of both internet-based sort of pieces that people can add to the website, as well as door clings and window clings, and some cardboard pieces that can be placed at checkout counters, all encouraging customers to support local and buy local here in Waterloo and Waterloo region. So we're still kind of in the early phases. There's also some storytelling pieces that we're working on. We've got a number of companies that have reached out that want to be part of that. So we're sort of kind of working through each one and with our the group that we're partnering on to create some of that content, and we'll probably have some stories coming out in the new year on that front as well.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, and we know it's the holiday season is upon us, so we just always continue to encourage people to think about shopping at any of our local retailers, or instead of buying some gift cards like those Visa cards or whatever, you can get Uptown Dollars, or there's a variety of options that would really support some of our local retailers and local businesses that we know really need it. My last question is just Bill 72 that the province has recently tabled, and the federal budget. Do you know from any of the programs that were mentioned, particularly through the federal budget, or Bill 72, or do you know if there's anything in there yet that might support some of our efforts to support local businesses, or options for local businesses through any of those pieces of legislation?
Through you, Mayor, through Bill 72, it's quite high level. It had its first reading last week, and at this point in time, it's just looking at providing a directive for the minister to put in place programs, but they haven't specifically within the bill dictated what those programs will be. Okay. So a lot of them would be items that were currently in the Building Ontario business initiatives, because the new act is proposing to replace that act. So it would just allow the procurement area, Supply Chain Ontario, to implement additional measures, but not yet set out. Okay. Well, I guess we'll keep a close eye on that and see if there's anything in there that we can use to support our local small and medium-sized businesses. Okay, thank you very much. I see there's no other questions from council, so just need someone to, there's a recommendation just to receive this for information, moved by Councillor Vasic, seconded by Councillor Rowe. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much for everyone for that report, and just to encourage people to continue to support local as much as possible. So now it's there's a consideration of notice of motion given at a previous meeting, and because it is my motion, I'm going to turn the chair over to Councillor Freeman, who is the acting mayor this month. So over to you, Councillor Freeman.
Thank you. Yes, Council, we are on item number 8, to explore the feasibility of building a high-performance aquatics facility with a 50-meter competition-ready pool, practice pool, appropriate training amenities and meeting spaces in Waterloo with support from the Government of Canada and the Government of Ontario. The notice of motion was in your package from the week previously, and we have a number of delegations. So how would you like to move this, Mayor? Would you like to put it on the table, and then we'll receive our delegations?
Yeah, I'd like to, if I could just make a couple of opening comments, and I believe Councillor Hanmer wanted to second it. But first of all, I just wanted to thank you, Councillor Freeman, and thank you to people who have joined us this afternoon, and to the many people who've sent in emails or phoned our office to comment on this motion. I have to say, a bit taken aback by the overwhelming support for this. And I do know that I heard, and maybe others have heard, some concerns about this as well, because we all know that pools come with a bit of a pretty hefty price tag. But I feel like I hit a nerve in the community, because it really has been overwhelming, the amount of people who've emailed, who've called, and someone dropped off a letter today. The Kitchener-Waterloo Sports Council took the time to come in just this morning to drop off a letter of support. But I do want to be clear with respect to the timing of this motion, or this idea that we know right now we're facing some significant challenges across the region, the province, Canada, in terms of affordability. And we are working hard to address that in the various ways that a municipal council, a local council can. But I do want to be clear that the purpose of this motion is to signal to staff that when we get to the point, and it's not in the next year, but when we do get to the point of really looking at of designing our west side recreation center, that if this is passed, that this is a 50-meter competition pool will be something that is considered in that design. This isn't something that is going to go on hit our property tax levy in this year's budget. It's not going to hit it in 2025. It's not going to hit it in 2026. So I just want to be clear with people that there isn't an imminent impact to the property tax at this point. But I do want to, if passed, send that signal to staff that council's interested in understanding more and getting more information about this. I also want to send a signal to the provincial government and the federal governments through their infrastructure programs that we are, if passed, a community that's interested in building and hosting regionally significant sports infrastructure. And I also want to signal to our community partners that we are looking for partners to do this, because I don't believe that this is something that we can do on our own. So I'll leave it at that for now, and let Councillor Hanmer make a few comments. But again, just want to reiterate my appreciation for those of you who are here today, and I look forward to hearing from the delegates, but also those who have expressed their support. Thank you.
Councillor Hanmer.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I am pleased to be seconding this motion, and as the Mayor has said, very happy to see the level of interest, both positive and with some concerns that have come forward so far. What really excited me about this particular opportunity was probably threefold. Number one, we're looking for partnerships. We're looking for partnerships with the federal government, the provincial government, and ourselves to make something like this happen. The second part is that building any kind of larger recreational facility and including in it opportunities for elite athletes brings a lot to our community. Residents have the opportunity to learn and grow and build their skill, whatever it happens to be. In this case, we're looking at pools, but going along with pools are other amenities that I think our residents can take advantage of. And the third part, being on the west side of the city without recreation facilities, I'm very happy to see that this one, if located there, would be very well used, and that's the area within the city that we are growing quite substantially. So as we get 1 million ready within the region, this is something that can very much support our entire area and the communities that we have and the residents that we have coming in. So I'm happy, and I look forward to hearing from the delegates today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you. So Council, the motion's just on the floor, and we're going to turn to our delegates. We have 7, just so that you know. So our first delegation is Dean, and just so you know, everyone, 6 of the delegations are registered for 10 minutes. So I think we can do the math on the timing. So if someone has already said what you wanted to say, maybe you can just add on the new information. And, but of course, we don't want to cut short your presentation. So welcome, Mr. Bowles. If you could just state your municipality of residence, that would be great.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you to council. Thank you, Mayor McCabe, for this opportunity. I live in Kitchener, and I've lived actually here in the region a good part of my life, different parts of the things. So thank you very much. So as you see, I'm the CEO of Swim Ontario, but also a member of the Aquatic Sport Council. And the Aquatic Sport Council is made up with the aquatic sport PSOs, aquatic sports, dive, artistic, water polo, swimming, the Parks and Recs in Ontario, and life-saving. And they've worked since 2009 to create somewhat of a platform to go to if municipalities or clubs, city clubs or anything like that we're looking for, but we've really upped our game in the last little bit. But before we go into that, and I like this, it's just like a swim meet right here. Here we go, got a time clock right here. Anyways, share a little bit, just so you know a little bit of why I'm here, and this project is very, very important to all of us, and I think it's from my personal view. So I've lived most of my life here. I grew up in our pool, swimming competitively for the regional Waterloo Swim Club, and I was fortunate enough to train in an environment that at that time was truly world class. My teammates included Victor Davis, Mike West, who went on to win 5 Olympic medals at the '84 Olympic Games. Incredible experiences for many to train in that environment, but to feel a part of. I think it's excitement back then. I think it continues to be excitement for the whole area here. Being surrounded by that level of excellence motivated me toward coaching as a profession. And I began working with young developing swimmers and quickly saw up close the impact that swimming has on youth. Confidence, discipline, belonging, resilience, lifelong health. I was fortunate enough in my coaching career serving as head coach of the Row Swim Club and Laurier team for 22 years and helped develop a number of Olympians and Paralympians along the way. But none of that happens without the team around the team. I had my inner circle, however, the program leaned on the entire Waterloo community from time to time, one that always supported sport and aquatics, and I thank this council and those before you very much. Swimming has served me incredibly well. After 50 years in coaching and leadership, I've had a front row seat to what sport excellence looks like, and even more importantly, how it shapes individuals from good swimmers into great citizens. The benefits of a strong aquatic system extends far beyond medals or records. They extend into the fabric of our community. I've had the privilege to represent Canada, seen good part of the world, and fortunate to work in Denmark for 4 years as a national head coach. Fun fact for Denmark, a small country, third of the population of Ontario, however, has 33 long course pools. And of the time I was there, between 2015 and 2019, they built 3 50-meter pools, 10 lanes wide. Pretty impressive. Standing here today feels a bit like deja vu. 17 years ago, I was in this chamber advocating to save the Laurier pool with many others. But the current moment is much bigger. The needs are wider, the region is larger, and the potential is greater. We are now talking not about preserving the past, but about building the future. A future that ensures our growing community has access to aquatic facilities it needs and deserves. From a provincial context and alignment, the Aquatic Sport Council has released a white paper, and I believe Council is aware of it and staff, along with the Aquatic Infrastructure Report. This is a current document. This is something that maybe hasn't been done in Canada, and we're quite proud of it, and is being shared amongst the other national sport organizations, aquatic sport organizations. This motion aligns Waterloo with a broader provincial and federal sport infrastructure priorities. And I understand soon we'll be hearing a bit more about that. Sort of the current facility situation we're becoming well aware of. The Laurier Pool is approaching end of life and facing operational constraints. University of Waterloo Pool is aging and is considerably undersized for today's community and sport demands. The region currently lacks a modern 50-meter facility, forcing clubs, university teams, residents to seek training and programming outside the community. Capacity limitations mean long wait lists for learn to swim, aquatic therapy, and fitness programming. Why a 50-meter pool matters. From a community needs. Learning to swim is a critical life skill, especially in the province where drowning remains the leading cause of preventable death for children. Two things I've learned over time talking to some of my sport friends is that they wanted their children to learn to swim and, being Canadian, learn to skate. Increased access to aquatic therapy, senior programs, and low-impact physical activity supports healthy aging. Responsive population growth study conducted in 2024, Ontarians want to swim. From a competitive and performance sport-friendly needs, 50-meter pool supports local swim clubs, Club Warriors and Regional Waterloo Swim Club, coexisting with double the numbers than when I was here 17 years ago in the sport of competitive swimming. Water polo, artistic swimming, dive, the ever-present masters and triathlon training. People love to come out here and cycle in the area, but triathlon and masters are pretty important. Life-saving sport training, high school swim teams, and varsity programs, such as the Laurier and Waterloo ones. Athletes and clubs currently face wait lists, insufficient training lanes, water space limiting performance, stifled long-term athlete development. Go back to my point, essential life skills, learning to swim and skate. I have yet to see a half rink built, so why should we settle for half pools? Economic and social return, I think some of you that'll resonate after a little while. 50 meters pools bring consistent economic activity by hosting regional and provincial competitions, and with the right facility, national and international events. Training camps can take place, university events will take place, school events take place, games hosting. These events drive hotel stays, restaurant and local spending, tourism exposure for the city and the region as a whole. A well-designed, energy-conscious, environmentally friendly aquatic center becomes a community hub, fostering social connection, volunteerism, employment, youth engagement, and us old folks as well. I put myself in there for sure. Strategic advantages for Waterloo. Supports the region growing reputation as a sport, health, well-being, and innovation hub. Strengthens ties between schools, university, community clubs, corporate Waterloo, and the city. Enhances livability and attractiveness for families, students, and employers. And it can provide equitable access for underserved neighborhoods and diverse communities. Why the feasibility exploration is the right step. The feasibility study will validate demand, identify design options, outline capital and operating models, explore partnerships, universities, provincial sport organizations, national sport organizations, government, and the private sector. Provide council with a clear evidence-based direction. This is a prudent, necessary step towards solving a known infrastructure challenge. I know we can count on staff and community partners from my experience over the years. I know we can count on outside sources who are excited about an opportunity. So in a nutshell, a new aquatic center would deliver public health benefits, economic returns, and a regional sport capacity for decades to enjoy. Thank you for the opportunity. Today, I urge you to support the possibility and see it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for the delegate council? I was forgetting I'm chairing. Just like I was making notes and listening.
Can I just wanted to make a quick comment and say thank you very much for coming and for your remarks. I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure if I heard you right. I think you said we used to have elite level training facilities when you were a teenager. Was that right? Is that where you said you trained?
I trained at Wilfrid Laurier.
Oh, okay.
And at that time, that wasn't elite. That was pretty special.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's where okay. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure I understood that. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate your input and the volunteer work that you do with Swim Ontario and the Aquatic Sport Council and the people the kids and others that you're training and mentoring. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh,
Was there
sorry,
questions?
Councillor,
Okay.
it's harder to see you when you're sitting down. Councillor Rowe?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you for your report. And I'm just curious, from your perspective, you were explaining that in Europe, the commitment to the full-size pools is much higher. And I don't know if you can speak to what their perspective is on that compared to here, perhaps?
Well, I think one is they really embrace health and well-being. They just are. That was one nice thing when I went to Denmark. They really live good life beyond the rat race. They don't live in a rat race. They go for walks. They enjoy the physical and emotional stimulus that takes place in places like that. They believe in sport as a backbone to longevity, and the community. It's an interesting piece there, and I don't know if you're familiar with Danish. They have this thing called hygge, which is just really lay back, put a fire on, some candles, and chill. They're really good at that.
Yeah, so I had Councillor Roach next.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you, Dean, for your presentation. Excellent. Just a point of information for myself. Can you cite other comparable municipalities that have built a 50-meter pool in the last 5 or 10 years?
Well, that could be an easy one. It's only been 5-10 years. There hasn't been one.
Interesting.
The last 50-meter pools built were for the Pan Am Games, a legacy for the games. But beyond that, nothing of a 50-meter length or the appropriate width.
Thank you, Dean.
Councillor Wright?
Thanks. Through you, Chair. I'm going to just build a little bit on Councillor Roach's comment there. What role do universities have in this space? I mean, we obviously have had this Laurier pool for any number of years, and it has supported the community, but it is not going to support the community for much longer. So, just when I did a look at the Southwestern Ontario pools, almost all of them were varsity pools. But I don't see any university representation other than our Club Warriors and our, is it the junior Warriors? So yeah, I'm just wondering whether you can comment on that.
Oh, I think both universities are quite interested, engaged in this project or this possibility. In the many discussions I've had with both athletic directors, and as well, one of the varsity teams is here. They're a bit tired. They just finished their divisional competitions this weekend, so they're a bit tired, but they're here strong. And you will hear from one of the varsity athletes, not on the slate, but we'll follow up with her story. So the universities play a huge role. Universities play a huge role just from the intellectual capacity that can come forward with planning and designing and forwarding that excitement. So we're fortunate to have 2 universities plus a college right here. It's huge. It's huge. It was huge 40 years ago, but it's huge today, even more so.
Thank you. Any other questions for the delegate? Seeing none. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
So next I have Liz Ackroyd. Welcome, Liz. And I just wonder, can you just provide your residents, like your municipality of residence? That would be great. No, just where you live, Waterloo,
Waterloo.
Kitchener, Guelph.
Yeah, Waterloo region.
Thank you.
Yeah, or Waterloo. I've lived in both. So I have a lot of what Dean has on, so I'll try to skim through. It shouldn't be more than 5 minutes. I like short and sweet. So yeah, I'm here as a parent volunteer and also the board chair for the Region of Waterloo Swim Club. I was born and raised in Waterloo, and then I spent a few years abroad working. And then I chose to come back to the Waterloo region to raise my family here. So I have 2 kids. I have one that is a swimmer with the Regional Waterloo Swim Club. I have one that's a water polo player with the Kraken. So aquatics is very personal to me. I actually have my own connection to aquatics. I actually began as a diver when I was 10 years old, and I dove for the KW Diving Club during the time that the rec center was being built. So we would have to drive down to the Elmira pool until that was being built. And you know, the rec center, great facility, but it still actually didn't fulfill the needs that the diving club needed at that time. So once a week, we would continue to drive an hour to get to the proper facility for us to actually do the work that we needed. So I was still, you know, on the road. I remember my 16-year-old sister driving us through snowstorms. It was a little dicey at times, so, you know, it got a little bit scary. And then over the years, I did live abroad as well. So just like Dean, I lived in Australia, I lived in UAE, and I lived in South Korea. Every single city that I lived in had a 50-meter pool facility that was equipped for meets with diving and everything. So that was something that I did take note of. Specifically in South Korea, I noticed a ton of opportunity for swimming there. Anyways, despite all these limitations that we're seeing right now in the community with, you know, the aging infrastructure at WLU, we see constant shutdowns. So our swimmers, parents are still expected to pay full price because we have everybody, like our staff is full-time staff that we hired, right? Hosted by a volunteer board. And even if we can't swim, we're still getting the fees from WLU, and we still have to get the payment from the parents, so that's not always fair. So the aging infrastructure is really kind of putting a damper on the training at times, but we're still thriving. From 2020 to now, we've increased our swimmers from 200 to 250 competitive swimmers with an additional 75 learn to swim swimmers. And right now we actually have 40 plus kids on our wait list just because we don't have the capacity to take them on. We have wonderful coaches and wonderful volunteer coaches and younger coaches for the younger teams. My son's actually a volunteer coach, which is awesome. But we just don't have the space to bring on any more of the Learn to Swim, which we see is very popular. Our athletes are doing awesome, so we compete at every major level, from regionals, festivals, Ontario Championships. We actually this year had 2 row swimmers compete at the Canadian World Aquatics Tour that stopped in Toronto, so swimming alongside some of our top Canadian athletes and worldwide athletes. So that was pretty awesome for them. But we're not here to advocate just for the elite swimmers. We're here for every kid. As Dean said, swimming builds so much confidence and esteem and resilience. And, you know, my son was a swimmer. He doesn't swim now, but he is just extremely engaged in, and the opportunities that it's brought him for lifeguarding or coaching has been wonderful. And then I want to talk to you too about just the economic impact. I know it will cost a lot to bring it, but just us hosting a swim meet at WLU right now, a 2-day meet, we typically make around $40,000. And that's, you know, limited groups coming in because we can only have limited athletes on deck at that time, and those are all volunteer-based runs. So if you think a small swim meet could do that, a larger meet will bring a lot more kind of economic value to the community, including restaurants and hotel stays and all of that. So as the kids get older, they typically swim morning and evening, so most people come down here and they'll actually stay overnight. So there's that value too. So then you're supporting local, going to local restaurants and all of that. And then finally, I guess one of the things in my speech that I had was, you know, row and club warriors, we have a friendly rivalry in the pool, right? So I was not a swimmer myself, but I kind of know about the past history of when the clubs parted ways. but there is a very healthy respect for each other's group. And like, I know Tracy very well, the incoming president, and we're here all to kind of work collaboratively and kind of push this forward and ensure that, you know, we do what we can to make this happen. Yeah, so that's everything.
Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your comments.
Yeah.
I'm just checking in to see if anyone has any questions for you. I know it's kind of a hot seat. You're doing great.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine.
Any
I'm in
questions for the
sales, but I
delegate?
usually I like to sit.
Okay.
I just wanted to again say thank you very much for taking the time to come and delegate, and also for the volunteer work that you're doing as the board chair, and, you know, of course, running your children to and from practices and meets and things like that. But no, I really do appreciate it, and you're providing your perspective, and particularly some of the economic impact that you mentioned. So thanks very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Next up is Leanne Dowdall. And Leanne, can you just provide your municipality of residence, please?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, and fellow community members. I reside in Cambridge, and I am the president of Waterloo Region Artistic Swimming Club. Our club currently supports approximately 100 recreational athletes, and this season we have 78 competitive athletes. Our season is a full September to June in length, and our athletes typically work on one team routine, possibly solos, duets as extra routines, and then our national level athletes, they compete in up to 3 routines in a year. Our organization competes at regional, provincial, and national competitions that are hosted by Ontario Artistic Swimming as well as Canada Artistic Swimming. I'm here today to express strong support for the motion to study the feasibility of building a 50-meter pool in Waterloo. Artistic swimming, for those who are not as familiar, previously called synchronized swimming, it requires athletes to train and perform in deep water without touching the bottom of the pool. So while the other swimmers are about length, ours is about depth to a certain degree. So if I can paint just a little visual picture for you, my daughter is on a team of 8 athletes that are 10 and 11 years old. They have what are called highlights that are key elements in their routine. And their first highlight in this year's routine has 6 of the swimmers that are underneath and have to lift one of the athletes who lays flat on her back as our flyer. She stands completely getting raised out of the water, standing on this other girl's stomach, and does a backflip off of her. So as you can imagine, the depth to get that amount of height when they push without touching the bottom of the water is very key. Without consistent access to properly designed deep water facilities, it becomes increasingly difficult to adequately train our athletes or align with the evolving direction of competitive artistic swimming. Our top national stream athletes train up to 18 hours per week. However, due to insufficient pool space locally in the region, we are forced to travel to alternative facilities outside of the region just to remain competitive. This limits our athletes' development, restricts program growth, and creates barriers for our families. Currently, there is no pool west of Etobicoke that meets the size and depth requirements to host artistic swimming competitions. They are typically 5 to 7 days long, and the closest options for us are Brantford or Windsor. Local pools in Waterloo simply do not provide adequate warm-up or cool-down space that's in water or outside of the water, nor do they accommodate sufficient spectator seating, which is essential for hosting national and international competitions. This lack of facility has financial and community implications for us. Our nonprofit club relies on hosting competitions to raise funds through admission fees, sponsorships, and parent-led event operations. In 2023, as an example, our club won a bid to host a competition in Windsor, which is great from a fundraising standpoint. However, all of our families had to travel, whether their athletes were competing or not, just to be able to support the club's fundraiser all the way in Windsor. A 50-meter competition-ready pool in Waterloo would be more than just a sports facility to us. It would be a hub for athletic excellence, community wellness, accessibility, and regional economic development. It would enable Waterloo to host regional, provincial, national, and even international competitions in artistic swimming, drawing tourism into the region, boosting the local economy, and showcasing Waterloo as a leader in sport, community engagement, and youth development. I respectfully urge Council to approve this feasibility study. I truly believe that with the right vision, Waterloo can become a destination for aquatic sport excellence, bringing lasting benefits to families, athletes, and the broader community for generations. Thank you for your time and consideration today.
Thank you. Questions for the delegate, Council?
Thanks very much, Leanne, for, again, as I said to others, for volunteering your time and your energy to support your own kids, but also other people's kids and maybe teens and adults. I'm not sure who all is participating. So really appreciate that. But I'm curious, you said that, so where do you practice? Do you practice right now at Laurier's pool?
Yeah, so across all of our teams, we practice at Cameron Heights and Kitchener. We're at Laurier. We're out in Elmira, the Woolwich Rec Center, and then also at the Swimplex here.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you really move around based on...
We move
okay.
around quite a bit. And it's our national level athletes, so they travel across Canada to compete against other Canadian teams that require the most hours per week, and then we're really fighting to find that pool time to get them in there. It's a large sport that is about strength, endurance, and obviously breath control and skills in the water.
Right. That maneuver that you described when you were starting sounds incredible. I'm going to have to look it up. They're incredibly strong athletes.
Yeah,
But thank you again for taking time to come today and for the volunteer work that you're doing.
No problem. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Rowe had a quick question.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Not a question, just a comment, really. And I appreciate your delegation. And what I've learned specifically is the broad spectrum of barriers, not just for the swimmers, but for the families, the volunteers, et cetera. So, you know, you can think strictly of swimming and those requirements, but this really is quite an in-depth family-associated event. Everybody's impacted, so thank you for sharing.
For sure.
Seeing no other questions, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Next is Alistair. And Alistair, I'm not sure how to say your last name. Is it Scorgi?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. You can raise the podium even more if need be. I think it comes up a bit more. Oh, that's all the way.
We're maxed out.
All right.
It's okay, I'm used to it.
Yeah, welcome. You have 10 minutes. Can I just trouble you to provide your residence, your municipality of residence, please?
Currently a resident of Stratford. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak the motion as tabled, presented by Mayor McCabe regarding high-performance aquatics infrastructure in Waterloo Region. My name is Alistair Scorgi. I'm the Director of Sport Hosting for Explore Waterloo Region, which is the destination marketing organization that promotes sport tourism and events for our community. Specifically for today, I'm also a former Wilfrid Laurier student and former aquatics coordinator at the Wilfrid Laurier pool. So I have lived through hosting events, and for the delegate from artistic swimming, I can fondly think back to artistic swimming events, especially the youth events where they play the same song all day for every competition, and I can never hear the Jackson 5's ABC ever again. I work closely with city staff on a daily basis to bring, support, and deliver sport events in Waterloo Region. And although the primary focus of my time is on events, we are regularly engaged with staff on discussions around infrastructure. This includes capital upgrades to existing facilities, potential new builds, and equipment that not only support event hosting, but enhance the recreation and community sport offerings in the city. An excellent recent example of that is the digital scoreboard at Rim Park on the turf fields, which was a legacy of the Canada Soccer National Championships in 2023. Sport tourism is at its best when events are complementary to the recreation services being provided, And with that in mind, I applaud the motion table for council's consideration to consider a new 50-meter pool in Waterloo that will not only serve the city, but the region of Waterloo and surrounding communities well into the future. To that end, in 2022, Explore Waterloo Region commissioned a feasibility study of aquatics infrastructure in Waterloo Region, and this was driven by 3 key contributing factors. First, that at that time, both the cities of Cambridge and Kitchener were in the final stages of design for new indoor recreation centers. Both of those facilities contain pools, both 25 meters in length. Second, the existing 6-lane 50-meter pool at Wilfrid Laurier University was nearing the end of its current phase of life and would likely require investment and assessment to extend its lifespan in the near future. And third, at that time, the possibility of a Commonwealth Games led by the City of Hamilton coming to Southern Ontario. I should note that currently the pool at Wilfrid Laurier University is not a facility that we can currently host events in. As a 6-lane pool, we are generally disqualified from hosting events in competitive swimming, water polo, diving, and I include the Waterloo Memorial Recreation Center in that case, and artistic swimming. That's a significant gap for our sport infrastructure in Waterloo Region, especially when compared to other sports. We have very robust resumes when it comes to ice sports, field sports, ball, gymnasiums. Aquatics is one of the weakest areas that we have in our resume. Further to this, for those that may remember, when Waterloo Region bid to host the Canada Games, the Summer Games back in 2017, aquatics were scheduled to be hosted in Brantford. So at that time, for an event being hosted by Waterloo Region, we were actually relocating one of the highest participant number sports and one of the highest regarded sports on the Games portfolio to another community. This is a venue gap that continues to exist and would be a detriment to any bid that we were to table in the future should the region consider hosting the Summer Games again. With the Commonwealth Games bid in Hamilton passing and not coming to fruition in 2022, sport leadership across the region agreed that we could not miss the next opportunity to assess the long-term need for a 50-meter pool. The study that we commissioned identified a number of key considerations. First, that Waterloo Region is currently underserved by pools of any size, and that's measured in pools per resident. Generally, the accepted number is 1 pool for 35 to 50,000 residents. As the region approaches 1 million people in 2051, the ratio of pools per residence becomes almost 50% of what's recommended. Even with the new pools in Cambridge and Kitchener, we're still around 70% of the pools required for the population. I would also note that Waterloo Region is not alone, and some of the other delegates have spoken to this being the case across not only Ontario and Canada, especially as many municipalities rely on existing infrastructure to extend the lifespan of their pools and rely on those to serve the community. Secondly, the new pools being built are primarily intended as recreation pools, 25 meters or 25 yards, and are not intended to support higher levels of competitive swimming and aquatics, which are currently oversubscribed at the pool at Wilfrid Laurier. And third, Ontario as a whole being underserved by this type of facility, we do have data and we do understand that the pools that do exist that are 50 meters are having significant geographic reach. Not only are they serving local communities, but they're bringing in communities far outside of their typical area, clubs that are traveling long distances to host events in neighboring communities. So not only is Waterloo Region not benefiting from bringing in events, we're actually losing our local clubs to other communities to train and compete. The study that we commissioned identified potential operating and capital costs, but those costs were specific to 2022 and they're dependent on multiple factors with the facility design. So whether it's a 50-meter pool, whether a dive tank is included, whether there's a gymnasium, dryland training space, whether a facility is built on a new site or in addition to existing infrastructure, all has potential impacts on what an operating and capital cost could look like. 3 recommendations from the study were made clear. First, any new facility in Waterloo Region needs to be multi-jurisdictional. It needs to be a partnership between not only municipal but post-secondary institutions in order for the right facility to be built and for it to be well used. Multiple levels of government funding are required for a project of this scope to be realized. This cannot be built and owned and operated by a single municipality. Provincial and federal funding is mandatory for this project to advance. And that consideration of additional spaces like dryland training, multi-purpose space, and a dive tank would be considered a value add. The study that we undertook was a first step down the path to realize a major competition-ready 50-meter pool. I support the motion as presented to council and its ability to help advance those discussions further and ensure that the next pool that gets built be strongly considered to fill the need for this type of facility in Waterloo region. This discussion is not a new one. It's a topic that's been tabled in various formats for over the last 20 years across Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge. And so far, the community hasn't been able to position itself early enough with enough information to effectively tackle the project. I hope that with the support of Mayor, Council, and staff, that this motion allows us to take a positive step in supporting aquatics groups locally and driving sport tourism to the region. Thank you for the time, and I am pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you for your delegation. Mayor McCabe.
Yeah, thank you, Alistair, for the work that you do with sport hosting and for Explore Waterloo Region and the partnership we have. I know it's our recreation director, Jill Fleming, and you are work really well together. So thanks very much for that. I'm just curious about where you ended there when you said like this is not a new issue, and it's been tabled, and we've, as a region, we haven't been successful in the past 20 years. But you said because we haven't positioned ourselves. Could you just unpack that a little bit? What do you mean by that? We haven't positioned ourselves well enough in advance. What does that mean, and what would you recommend to us?
Thank you for the question, Mayor. I think there's a couple factors that have impacted that. First, in order to effectively secure provincial and federal government funding, you generally need to have a shovel-ready project. We don't often see or have a lot of notice when infrastructure funding is being unveiled. So it's doing the work early in order to be prepared to leverage those opportunities when they come about. We saw that last year with provincial funding rolled out by the Ministry of Sport, and I can't speak to it as well as maybe city staff, but having to very quickly identify projects that could be eligible for provincial funding. It's a very reactive process. So having something planned, developed, and ready to go is a big part of that conversation. But historically, I think one of the bigger challenges has been the lack of cooperation or alignment across municipalities in Waterloo region. A facility of this type is a little different than a ball diamond or a soccer field. It does need to be multi-jurisdictional, and as municipalities have generally focused on their own needs, it's been challenging to align the resources and the support to build a facility that's going to serve regionally as opposed to a single municipality. So I think comparatively now from maybe 15 years ago, the cooperation and alignment between Kitchener, Waterloo, the universities is a lot healthier. There's more integrated planning, and I think that puts us in a better position.
Okay, thanks very much. That's good information.
Councillor Basak.
Thanks, through you, Chair. Thanks so much. I have a question about paraswimming. I only thought of this question when you were talking about artistic swimming, because I see them practicing after the cracking practices. My kid is also a water polo player, and swimming is such an intense activity at the levels that you're all presenting about today. And I know our facilities are accessible to a certain extent for folks with disabilities to use the pools. But your delegation made me think about how, or if this might support paraswimming. Is this needed for paraswimming? I'm just seeing that the Ontario Parasport Games was in Niagara this year. Have they ever reached out to you? I'm trying to get an understanding of how we move forward, investing in recreational facilities, bless you, that are accessible more fully, particularly for something that's, of course, it's going to be, a pool of 50 meters will be used by many people, but it will primarily be used by elite sports. And I'm quite supportive of this. I just also want to know if we're investing money into something are how will the disability community get to access it? Will they, et cetera. So I'm thinking of those things, if you can just kind of generally comment on that.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor. This is also a topic that's near to my heart because I worked for the Canadian Paralympic Committee for about 10 years, so parasport is my background. Swimming is one of the integrated sports in Canada where the Olympic and Paralympic athletes train and compete under one umbrella. They're not separated compared to some other para sports that are uniquely para. We have 2 Paralympians that train or reside in Waterloo region in swimming. Katie Cosgriff, who went to Paris last year and started her undergrad at Laurier last fall, and Alec Elliott, who's a resident, who's been to multiple Paralympic Summer Games. I actually saw Alec at the pool at Laurier this morning going in the train. So I think to answer the question, for any new facility, it's a key element that needs to be considered when we're looking at all sport and recreation infrastructure, especially as we are served by a lot of facilities that are aging, which is a good thing. They're serving the community well, 30, 40, 50 years on, but often weren't built to the standards, not only from an accessibility perspective, but from an accessibility sport perspective, which is a little different. Not doing the bare minimum from a government perspective, but actually making an inclusive and barrier-free space. So I would say that our current infrastructure, we do what we can, we modify the spaces, we adapt where possible, but any new facilities need to really think that through. Para-swimming is also challenging because of the spectrum of disabilities. You can have para-swimmers who walk and swim and look like an able-bodied athlete, all the way down to paraplegics who use wheelchairs. So identifying barrier-free access, not only in the pool, but the pool deck, the change rooms, the facility itself, so that every step of the way there are no barriers in place, is a key consideration.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much. It's come up quite often, or a handful of times at this council, that it's really tough to make everything fully accessible or fully anything for everyone. And so it sounds like that could also be a challenge, but it sounds also like you're able to keep it top of mind. So I'm just flagging that that's probably something city staff also want to. So thanks for your background, sharing your background too. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. And we keep that lens with all sports. Parasport's a key contributor to the sport ecosystem in Canada, whether it's integrated or not. They have events, they have training camps, they're developing athletes, so we always have the accessibility lens when we're looking at facilities to ensure that we're not excluding certain groups.
Councillor Wright also had a question for you.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I was really intrigued by the stat you provided about, pools per number of residents. And just taking into consideration the rate of growth in our community, it's been the fastest growing community in Canada. Calgary, right on our heels, has experienced a similar kind of lag in terms of its facilities. And I'm just wondering if you can provide some high-level advice on, that growth and recreation facility quantum. Like, how do you manage the facilities in a time when you're growing so exponentially?
Thank you, Councillor. You try to catch up as best as you can. I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. First, one of the reasons we did this feasibility study was to arm city staff with more information as they're looking at the long-term sport plans and strategic facility plans in Waterloo, Kitchener, Cambridge, and at the universities. So particularly coming out of the pandemic, there was a lot of work being done to reassess where are we now compared to 2019 and what the next 5 to 10 year plan looks like. So that was part of the reason we did it, is to fuel data into those discussions, that we're not making decisions based on assumptions or subjective information, that we have metrics that we can point to say this is where we're seeing pain points, whether it's oversubscribed learn to swim programs or clubs that have to compete in or train in 5 different pools because they can't get the time. So really allowing staff to build that into the plans. And to further that point, we're actually wrapping up another study right now that we took on in 2025, which is a sport trends study. And we did that regionally as well to assess the overarching trends that we're seeing across sport. and how that might impact infrastructure or programming at a municipal level. So are we seeing a rise in registrations in certain sports, changing demographics, whether that's by gender or socioeconomic background, looking at where the pain points on facilities are, when are sports competing, when are they training, when are they taking time off, how do we manage our facilities better to get the most out of them. It was noted earlier that a lot of sport facilities do have high operating costs, so effectively using the schedule and the facilities to maximize the space that they offer. So we're continually trying to find more and more information to provide staff to make educated decisions, and when we're looking at allocating resources in coming years, which areas need them most urgently, or where we're falling behind the fastest.
Any other questions? I was kind of interested in your O&M comments, the comments around operation and maintenance, because obviously I think there'd be an expectation that there'd be a lead partner that would take on this kind of a project, but clearly that lead partner couldn't also take on all the operation and maintenance. Like, can you describe any examples where you've actually seen this work, where the lead partner hasn't been a higher learning institution, where they have this ability to kind of bring resourcing together?
I have one example. I don't think it's the best example, but I think it is comparable for the circumstances. The Toronto Pan Am Centre in Scarborough, which was a legacy of the Pan Am Games in 2015, 2 50-meter pools, dive tank, gymnasium, Canadian Sport Institute. It's a multi-sport facility. It's jointly owned and operated by the University of Toronto, the City of Toronto, and High Performance Sport. And so that facility was actually created as its own corporation. It has a board that represents those institutions and partners, and it operates itself. So it is kind of an uncharted way for a facility that is multi-jurisdictional to figure out how do we take the investment into the capital, manage the time effectively, especially as they're looking at allocating space across all those facilities. And so far, we're 10 years in, and I would say it has been a success from the information that I have. So there are ways to do it. We had different recommendations on potential operating and capital models. Generally, that depends mostly on who's at the table, who would be a partner on a facility like that. Is one willing to take on the operations if another's willing to support the capital? There's a lot of ifs and questions to be answered, but there are ways to go about it. So I'd say the Pan Am Centre is a great example of a partnership that has led to a highly regarded facility in Canada.
And can you remind me, I'm pretty sure that facility is physically located on land that is owned by the University of Toronto. Is that correct, in Scarborough?
I believe it is.
Yeah, that's what I think so too.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just, I mean, I think this is, for me, this is a really big piece, because it can't, there has to be a fulsome plan around, it's one thing to fundraise for capital. It's quite another to actually operate something. And as you said, or at least you alluded to the fact that fairly allocating the resource once it's construction becomes a really challenging thing. And we certainly see this with our ice rink time in particular. And I think that piece, and trying to put some brain power at that's probably outside of the city, is going to be a really important piece, because the city, as a space allocator, I think would have a really difficult time putting city investment into a facility that was going to be used 80 to 90% for elite athletes only. It would be really challenging. And what I'm hearing today is that the elite athletes who are training in our community already don't have enough space, so the pressure on the space for elite training would be really high. And it would be, in all fairness, primarily built with elite athletes in mind. So I think that, you know, I like the motion the way it is. I think that I would like to push back to the the aquatics community to a certain point to basically say some of these very challenging pieces aren't going to probably be solved by the city. But I guess there isn't really a question in there. You answered the question around how the O&M is managed for that other facility, and I appreciate that.
And I can answer your non-question with some more information. I think two things to consider. One is effective use of any facility. I generally, as a baseline rule, say 30% goes to the operator, the owner, 30% community programming, 30% high performance sport. If you can break it into thirds in some way so that it's serving different aspects of the sport community, generally you're going to have an effectively used facility that's serving different groups and different demographics. But what I would also say is if the right facility were to be built, that would also reduce the high performance demands on recreation facilities that are being used for the wrong purpose right now. And I think the artistic swimming representative spoke to be using so many different pools that aren't necessarily the right pool for them to be in. And that's where it's compressing community programming like Learn to Swim, Life Saving, programming that shouldn't or should be prioritized in a 25-meter pool or a recreation pool where the space is being eaten up by competitive swimming because they don't have the right facility to be in. So it's that overarching allocation of space across multiple pools. This project shouldn't be done in isolation. It should be considering the impact on the Waterloo Rec Complex, on other post-secondary institutions on their pools, and how we can create a holistic aquatics environment that's good for the city, good for residents, good for post-secondary, good for clubs.
Thank you for your delegation. Okay, the next delegation is Tracy Miller, who is the incoming president with the Club Warriors. And Tracy, can you just provide your municipality of residence, please?
Yes, I live in Waterloo. I need it a little bit shorter. Good afternoon, and thank you for your time. My name is Tracy Miller, and I come to you wearing many hats. First, I grew up in Waterloo. I spent most of my child, teen, and early adult years as a competitive swimmer here in the city. I swam locally for the KWY, as well as the University of Waterloo in my second and third years. I also completed all of my lifeguard training at both the Waterloo YMCA and the Waterloo Rec Center and was a lifeguard locally for many years. Second, I come to you as a local high school teacher. I am a science and chemistry teacher currently teaching student success at Resurrection Catholic Secondary School in Kitchener. I've spent many of my teaching years coaching high school swimming. I'm currently the co-convener of the District 8 Swim League for Catholic and French high schools in the city. Our swim season begins this week. Third, I come to you as the incoming president of Club Warriors, for whom my two daughters, aged 9 and 11, currently train and compete. A team comprised of roughly 330 swimmers and 37 coaching staff. From my perspective and personal experience, there is no activity quite like swimming. Swimming is more than just a sport. Beyond competitive swimming, it's a lifelong skill that promotes health, safety, and inclusion. It keeps the elderly moving and our community safe, regardless of age and ability. It has also given Waterloo the opportunity to be seen on the world stage. As of right now, Waterloo lacks an appropriate aquatic facility to meet the needs of not only our athletes, but also our growing community for the following reasons. And I numbered them 1 through 4. Number 1, from a community perspective, Waterloo has one of the fastest growing populations in Ontario, which includes many newcomers to Canada. We draw some of the greatest minds from all over the world. We have opportunity and intellect. Statistics show that new Canadians are at the highest risk of drowning. These rates are due to factors like inability to swim and lack of access to swimmable water, often resulting in decreased awareness of water safety. Further, factors such as lower income and rural living with minimal access to swim-friendly waters can also increase the drowning risk for both immigrant and non-immigrant populations. Available pool time can be scarce, and wait lists can be long. A new facility would expand access to essential water safety programs and would mesh well with the future growth needs of our city. In terms of life-saving courses specifically, a current coach with Club Warriors, is also involved in teaching life-saving courses in Kitchener and Waterloo. By her account, communities that are not located near the current Waterloo recreational complex have seen an increase in a want and a need to run these courses. Parents are busy, with most households containing 2 working adults. Transporting their children to one available Waterloo facility for these courses is not always possible. As a result, seasonal neighborhood pools such as Beechwood Park are running at 100% capacity for these courses, despite the desire. Number 2, from an elite performance perspective, which obviously everybody has spoken to already, but from a Club Warriors perspective, Club Warriors swimmers represent Waterloo by competing at international levels. Over the years, our successes have included 2 swimmers competing at open water international level competitions as part of Team Canada in recent years. Three swimmers represented CW at the World Cup in Toronto in 2022 and 2025, just recently. Swimmers from CW have competed at Olympic trials in all possible years since our inception, 2012, 2016, 2020, and most recently 4 swimmers in 2024. An impressive list of accomplishments, despite the fact that our primary training pool is 25 yards long. Our swimmers are up before 5 a.m. daily to make the most of the time available to us in various cities across the region. Our swimmers are preteens and teens who train well before the sun is up, either in a pool where space is at a premium or in the weight room at U of W before the facility even opens to its students. In addition to the University of Waterloo, we currently rely on older community pools such as Cameron Heights. In some cases, these pools are nearly 60 years old and increasingly unreliable for training and community programs. For example, this year alone, we have seen both WLU and U of W shut down for emergency repairs. By providing an elite level facility to the competitive teams, these existing facilities can focus their efforts on community programs that are much more suited for their design. Further, if we were able to have access to an elite level facility, Waterloo, with no doubt, would be frequently represented on the international stage. We have the talent, we just need to be able to build on it. To give you some perspective, Club Warriors is a team of 330 swimmers with several intake opportunities throughout the swim year. Currently, we have 150 swimmers on our wait list, looking for their chance to become a warrior. The majority of our wait list is the novice or beginning swimmer age group. The remainder are interested in our fitness and technique program, a non-competitive group focused on keeping active, improving technique, and in many cases, cross-training for other sports. This program is our most desired program at this point, with enough swimmers on the wait list to fill at least one more group. Number 3, from an economic perspective, a world-class facility would allow us to host national-level events ranging from Canada Games to Canadian swimming trials, all of which would attract visitors from all over the world. We could host provincial high school events such as QASA and OFSA and provincial swimming championships, which require competition-level facilities to even be considered. These large-scale swimming events attract swimmers and their families from all over. As a result, there is no doubt in my mind that we would see a generation of significant tourism revenue for the city. For example, my family alone will likely spend a few $1,000s this year in hotel and restaurant costs for out-of-town meets, mostly to Toronto or Windsor, for my 2 daughters. In addition, at this point in time, Club Warriors is unable to sanction or host any competitions due to our facility limitations. By having that ability to regularly host meets throughout the season, we would not only generate funds for our city, but also for our club. A single 3-day meet with about 500 swimmers would generate approximately $50,000 to $60,000 in profit. These funds could be invested back into our programming, our staff, and our swimmers, making it more accessible to those interested and to allow us to increase our existing bursary program for those requiring financial assistance to be able to take part. And finally, my last point, from an inclusion perspective. Currently, high school swimming teams are often vying for pool space. We hold practice at multiple locations and swim meets at others. Many meets have been held in pools without starting blocks and appropriate competitive facilities. As a science teacher and District 8 swim coach and convener, one of the best parts of high school swimming for me has always been the fact that it's been inclusive. I cannot count how many times over the years I've had students come to our tryouts saying they can swim in their backyard pool, or sorry, their neighbor's backyard pool, so they figured they could be part of our team. Swimming as a school sport is unlike many others in that it divides club-carded swimmers from the high school level athletes, meaning that everyone really has a fair shot at success. It not only affords kids the opportunity to be part of a high school team, but it also gives them a chance to be successful regardless of outside ability to train.
Tracy, you're over time now. I'm just wondering if
Oh,
you
it
can
says I have a minute left.
Yeah, it says there's a minute left.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, you're good.
Okay.
One more minute.
Sorry. In many cases, these swimmers qualify for both regional and provincial meets where they might not otherwise be included. In many instances over the years, we have been able to take our backyard swimmers to regionals and provincial events such as Kawasa and OFSA with just a few pointers. I have to be honest, it might be the one reason I continue to be involved to this day. In closing, building an elite level facility is an investment in health, safety, and economic growth for Waterloo. A modern aquatic center will serve athletes, families, and newcomers alike, making Waterloo a leader in sport and community well-being. We at Club Warriors urge the council to prioritize this project and help us to build a facility that reflects the excellence and inclusivity our city stands for.
Thank you. Sorry I interrupted. I can only see the, like,
That's
when
okay.
I sit there, I see a big timer. When I sit
I
here,
did practice, so I knew I was under 10 minutes.
So my apologies.
That's okay.
Questions for Ms. Miller?
Yeah.
Mayor McKay.
Thank you very much, Tracy, for really eloquently outlining why you grew up as a swimmer, why your kids are in swimming, why you support kids of all kinds of backgrounds in swimming as in your role as a high school teacher. I really like the point you made about the fact that this is still a sport, at least at high school, that like a kid who's a backyard swimmer can still join a club and participate and have that experience, because we know the sports has changed in high schools that if you're not sort of with a club team when you get on, like, you're not going to make the basketball team or the soccer team or that. So that's a really helpful point that you noted. So you look like you were going to say something.
No, I just was going to agree that, when you fill the basketball team or the volleyball team, we tend to have club kids. And yes, high school swimming does include club kids as well, but they do swim as a separate division, as an open division. And so it gives kids that, don't have the opportunity to be part of a team to be involved. And really, isn't that what we're gunning for these days with high school kids, to get them out and get them active, get them off their phones, and doing sports. So
absolutely. Well, thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next delegation, no, there's no more questions, right? I didn't, okay. Our next delegation is Peter Baxter, Chair of the Kitchener-Waterloo Sports Council Facilities Committee. Welcome, Peter. Just a reminder, the municipality of residence, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, I'm Peter Baxter, and I'm a resident of Waterloo and Old Beechwood, and a former athletic director at Wilfrid Laurier, so I have interest in certainly supporting the pool, and work with Dean Bowles a long time ago to save the pool 17 years ago, but that's running out of life. I serve as volunteer now, as being retired, with the KW Sport Council, which has supported our board of directors just recently passed a motion to support this motion and this initiative by council. Our committee represents a wide cross-section of sport organizations throughout Waterloo Region, including elementary and secondary school athletics, track clubs, adult running groups, lacrosse, Special Olympics, flag and tackle football, ultimate frisbee, and representatives we've had in the Indigenous community. We are united in a common purpose to advocate for sport, recreation, well-being, and health facilities that grows our community. This afternoon, we're here to express our strong support for addressing the critical shortage of sport and recreation facilities in Waterloo. And first, in terms of the aquatic facility, on behalf of the KW Sport Council, we strongly support the motion before you to explore a feasibility study for a high-performance aquatic facility featuring a 50-meter competitive pool supported by appropriate training, meeting, and community spaces. Having operated as a former athletic director, the Laurier 50-meter pool for more than 24 years, I can attest that this facility is at the near end. My duct tape budget was fairly high near the end of my tenure. Despite its age, it has been the training home to athletes who have collectively earned 7 Olympic medals by Canadians and 1 additional medal by a Japanese athlete who trained at Waterloo when we had the National Swim Center, a portion of the National Swim Center here. Multiple Paralympic medals have been included. You talked about Alex Elliott, but also Tyson McDonald and Jessica Tumala, a blind swimmer that swam out of that pool. This pool's been home to 2 synchronized swim clubs, Special Olympics. My Friday afternoons was high-fiving the Special Olympic athletes coming in for their training, and life-saving sport, and even served as a training site for Waterloo Regional Police Aquatic Search and Rescue Team at some point, their dive team. The legacy is remarkable, but its future is now limited and at its end. With the KW, we certainly support this 50-meter feasibility study and the need for, and I'm also here to advocate the shortage of facilities within our region and the opportunities that we've missed because of those shortages. Alistair spoke of a number of opportunities in terms of being able to be shovel ready, and that's been the case here. When we bidded for the Canada Games, we were behind the ball in terms of having shovel-ready facilities to gain the access to funding by provincial and federal funding organizations. In our community, we also need a multi-purpose outdoor stadium and indoor training center. Beyond athletics, our community urgently needs multi-purpose stadium that includes a high-quality spectators playing surface, a regulation 400-meter track and field facility, an outdoor-indoor training center with a 200-meter track and court sports surfaces. Ideally, these facilities will be built adjacent to any future location for the aquatic center, enabling efficiencies through shared amenities, meeting spaces, operations, and together they would establish a recreation, sport, culture, wellness hub for this city of Waterloo and the region. And I have to make a point that I think that any type of hub of this nation needs the buy-in of all the townships and the 3 cities here. In the 4 years that I've been involved with this committee, every time I talk to different townships or so forth, they talk about that need, but nobody wants to champion it. And I encourage the city of Waterloo, who's been visionary in terms of putting forth this motion, to act in that case. So Why is the time to act now? Waterloo Region is projected to surpass 1 million residents by 2050. Our current facilities are already stretched beyond. We want our citizens to play, live, and thrive, and we must invest now. If Waterloo wants to remain a center of innovation, it requires that we attract top talent, and we need the infrastructure to attract top talent and families to our community. We have a unique opportunity to build a state-of-the-art stadium, indoor performance center capable of hosting local and regional training, provincial championships, national and international events, that historically was at Centennial Stadium and now has been mothballed since 2013. So we're even behind in terms of a community that's growing. In a former career, I worked for OFSA and held track and field meets in Kitchener in 1984, 1994, and 95. We've had multiple Athletic Ontario championships and so forth. A modern facility would restore Waterloo Region's capacity to host these events of a caliber and significantly boost our sport tourism economy. And in terms of the economic impact, Alistair would have a lot of information on that. I believe when I was on the sport hosting committee as a volunteer, as a representative from Laurier, the wrestling made about $4 million in a week period into the community that was held at Rim Park. But I look at a stadium of that facility as a lot more than just a sports event, but an arts, cultural, and community event. The stadium could serve for concerts, outdoor cultural festivals, marching band competitions, powwows, and community celebrations. And in terms of powwows, the Indigenous community reps, Christine Rastoul, who runs the event at Conestoga, said they're running out of space in terms of the size of the event that they could bring. It could even position Waterloo Region to host a professional women's soccer franchising, bringing long-needed gender equity to the pro sports spectator landscape in our community. And I've written Diane Matheson on that. Statements from our sport community and on our Paul Osland from the CEO of Athletics Ontario described the facility gap clearly. The lack of sport facilities, particularly indoor venues, is a critical issue across Ontario. Clubs are turning kids away because we do not have the space. A multi-sport stadium with indoor and outdoor capabilities would be a game changer, offering opportunities to more youth to participate while generating millions of economic impact. Local coach from the Laurel Creek Track Club, the current state of indoor and outdoor track venues in Waterloo Region is embarrassing. Julie Wetzler of Special Olympics Ontario noted that the facilities we use this year had substandard track surfaces and poor field event venues. A once-in-a-generation opportunity. With Centennial Stadium gone and it's mothballed in 2013, we're way behind in sport infrastructure. By passing the aquatic facility motion and by taking the next step to explore a stadium and indoor training center study, Council will help shape a brighter, healthier, more inclusive future for sports, arts, wellness, culture in Waterloo Region. Let's work together to bring a transformative vision to life. Thank you, and I'll take some questions.
Thank you very much. Questions, Councillor Wright.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Two things really stood out to me just now. One, your call for reiterating the need for a shovel-ready project. And the other is regarding having a bigger vision about sports infrastructure and facilities. I just want to note that this past summer, on the heels of Summer McIntosh's phenomenal results, Teddy Katz wrote an article about the really the failing aquatics facilities infrastructure in Canada, and he named a whole bunch of different facilities that are on the verge of shutdown or needing to close for periods of time, and then, you know, for renovations, extensive renovations and refurbishments. And the thing that I want to ask your advice on is, in this context where it could be really a competitive environment for upper level funding from either the province or the federal government, how does Waterloo position itself to be competitive in that national landscape? You know, if we're up against Vancouver or Halifax or Quebec City or Montreal, how do we make sure that we stand, you know, ahead of the crowd?
Well, first of all, you take this step as a pool. and further step to look at the other infrastructure here, because we could be the hub. For instance, Athletics Ontario, they can only run their meets or even a national meet, not even a national meet at York University. That's it across. Pools, the pool in London, the 50-meter pool is coming to near life end or major refurbishment. Etobicoke's been there since I was a student at U of T back in the 70s. I'm a lot older in that side. But I think a bold vision for Waterloo to be the hub for not just high-performance sport, but the wellness and facility. When I talked actually to the City of Waterloo Indigenous Elder here, he mentioned about, when I talked to him about the vision for it, he talked about it as being a wellness healing center for everybody, not just for the Indigenous community, because I was asking what input that they would have. And I think that we could be a model for Canada. So, you know, competing for Vancouver and so forth, we're going to be 1 million people. We're one of the 10th largest cities in Canada. So let's get up the rankings.
Thank you. Other questions, Council?
Just to say thank you very much, Peter, for all the work you're doing on this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes. So the next registered delegate is Noor Ansel. Welcome. And can I just trouble you to give your municipality of residence?
The region of Waterloo.
Okay. And you have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Noor Bansal, and I'm a 4th-year student studying mechanical engineering at the University of Waterloo. And I'm a proud member and captain of the University of Waterloo Warriors varsity swim team. I'm here to share my story as an athlete and why a 50-meter pool matters not just for athletes like me, but for families and the Waterloo community. I found swimming when I was around 8 years old. My parents tried to get me into ballet, karate, but I just fell in love with swimming. I stayed because of the teammates who became my lifelong friends, as well as the coaches who challenged me and believed in me, and taught lessons that reached far beyond the pool. As I moved through the levels with different coaching styles, I learned to quickly adapt, listen, and grow. That's the community that raised me. Swimming also shaped my character, not just for physical training, it was the mental work. Getting up at 5 a.m., jumping into a cold pool, and doing it all over again after school, pushing through sore muscles and tough practice sets, and balancing a 20-hour training week with high school responsibilities and everything else that life threw at me. Without realizing it, I was building time management, resilience, and confidence that carried me into the classroom and my day-to-day life. It hasn't just helped me learn values to strengthen my own goals, but also allowed me to connect with the community. I've also been a coach to younger kids to help them improve with their technique and become better athletes. University swimming brought a whole new mindset. In clubs, individual performance often takes the center stage, but in university, you get to chase your personal best as well as swim for something bigger. You show up for the team. The culture at the University of Waterloo Warriors swim team is exactly what I hope to find. Supportive, spirited, and a deeply committed team. Just this past weekend at our divisional championship that we won, our team's energy and spirit was electric. That's what gets me out of bed at 5 a.m. in the morning every single day. This mindset and the values that I learned from swimming have reflected onto every aspect of my life. However, at the University of Waterloo, we do face a slight limitation. Our current facility is a 25-yard pool. It has served us well, and we're very grateful for it. However, most Canadian university competitions and national level meets are in 25 or 50-meter pools. Switching between yards in training and meters on competition makes a big difference. The feel of the water changes, which is very important with swimming. Turns and stroke count changes, pacing and race strategies change. Being able to train in a 50-meter pool builds a specific rhythm and confidence that show up on race day. A 50-meter pool isn't just about faster times, it's about opportunity as well. Right now to access long course training and meets, many athletes have to travel, which may take a lot of time that families and athletes don't necessarily have. A local 50-meter facility would keep athletes training at home and reduce barriers for competitive training. It would also support school programs and lay space for broader communities, and a 50-meter pool would also give way for the City of Waterloo and give them the opportunity to host provincial and national competitions at home. I stand here as someone who's deeply benefited from this community, from coaches who've given their time and teammates who've cheered me on. With this pool, the new generation of future athletes can train and compete at a higher level. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your journey in swimming that's still ongoing. Yes. Questions, Councillor Rowe and Mayor McCabe.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I just wanted to say thanks, Nora, for your presentation and congratulations on your win. Whichever, I don't know if that was you personally or the club's win.
Team.
Okay,
Yes.
that's fantastic and very timely. Are these a couple of your coaches that you brought with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Jackie and Karen are my two coaches.
Oh,
Yes.
fantastic. Well, thanks. I know you were here last week when the motion was first tabled, so thanks for coming again this week, and you probably spent your whole weekend at the pool, so, but thank you very much. You sound like you're you're managing a lot on your plate at a young age, so so well done you. You're already quite an impressive person. Thank you for coming in and taking time to show your support.
Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Yes, I just wanted to echo what the mayor has said. Thank you for coming and for sharing your perspective and your lived experience, because I think that's really important for everyone to understand for what your needs are, what the challenges are, and the benefits. And also, I cannot imagine what your schedule is like. So I commend you for, full-time school and swimming. It's fantastic. So thank you for coming and for sharing your experience.
Thank you so much, Council.
Thank you. Okay, Council, there's a motion that's on the floor. It's been seconded. And comments, Councillor Bodley.
Yeah, thank you. First, I want to take the time to thank all of the delegates who came in. It's very clear all of your passion that you have for this proposal that's put forward here, and I know we're sort of in the very early stages here, and I'm sure that there's much more advocacy that's necessary from you folks in the coming years as this continues forward. There's just a couple of things that I wanted to highlight from the delegates that I heard today. One of the comments was that we're way behind in sport infrastructure here in the city, and I'm an athlete. Well, a beer league athlete, and I love sports and I play sports a lot. But we have some pretty good sports facilities here in the city of Waterloo, and if we're way behind in sports infrastructure, we're way behind in a lot of infrastructure here in the city of Waterloo, and broadly here in the region. And the other thing that I wanted to highlight from one of the delegates was the example of Denmark, and the commentary that in Denmark they embrace health and well-being, and I don't dispute that. I think that they definitely embrace health and well-being, but I think the key difference between Denmark and here in Canada is that they put their money where their mouth is. In Denmark, they pay substantially higher taxes. The effective tax rate for those who are high income earners in particular is substantially higher than it is here in Canada, in Ontario, in Waterloo, and also a significantly higher portion of the effective tax burden goes to the local municipalities, in some cases nearly double or triple in Denmark than it does here in Canada. And so at the end of the day, what we're going to be talking about here is not whether or not we embrace health and well-being, but whether or not we're willing to pay for it. And that leads me to something that Councillor Vasic referenced earlier today, which is not remotely related, but I'm going to bring it around, about traffic circles in her neighborhood. And the idea that we should be doing things right the first time. The cheapest way to do something is to build it properly the first time that you build it. And I hope that this is a lesson for council, not just when we explore this motion in the future, but when we talk about things like the forthcoming Albert McCormick reconstruction project that we have coming forward, because that's a piece of infrastructure here in the city that is underutilized and we need to be investing in and is way behind. Oftentimes, when you have that lower tax burden, like we do here versus Denmark, you look to cut corners to save money in the short term, but in the long term, it reveals all of the missed opportunities that everybody here today highlighted. And so I really just wanted to highlight that. And then the last thing that I wanted to highlight, just as the representative in Ward 2 on the West End, alongside my colleague here in Ward 1, Councillor Hanmer, is the idea that this is built for the West Side Recreation Facility is something that I think is worthy of being explored, and the feasibility study will reveal that. But I do want to assure residents in the West End of the city that this is, if this is the direction that council ends up moving forward with, that this is not just to support elite athletes, but this is also intended to incorporate neighborhood and community level recreation, which is a huge need in the west end of the city because we have a dearth of recreation facilities out in that area of the city. Happy to support the motion though, and appreciate everyone coming out today. Thank you.
Other comments, Mayor McCabe?
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Bodley. I appreciated those comments. I had a question actually for Jill Fleming, who's our Director of Recreation Services. I'm just wondering if you could comment on what the city's current capacity, what our, like with the swim aquatic programs particularly, what our wait lists look like, conversations or discussions you've had with our post-secondary institutions that are in Waterloo around this type of facility, but also, you know, other facilities as well. Thanks.
Through you, Councillor Freeman, to Mayor. Thanks for the question. So to address your question, I do have some numbers here. We had about 2,850 aquatic lessons, including our leadership lessons offered from September of 2024 through to August 2025. Our average fill rate is around 81%. But it's important to note that, you know, we offer a lot of lessons. And so though our capacity is 81%, those programs that are offered in the really popular times are filling up within an hour. So they are reaching capacity, very short demand. So I did want to articulate that. The other thing around the Laurier conversation, so as you know, Region of the Row Swim Club is one of our many aquatic groups, and we know that if they were to come and ask for time for the evenings and weekends, we would not be able to accommodate them currently. And speaking with my colleagues at Laurier, the Director of Athletics there, the status of their pool is unknown. They are doing a current assessment, and you know, if there was displacement from that as a result, we would not be able to accommodate that within our current infrastructure.
Okay, thanks very much. Thanks very much for the work that you're doing on this. And I also just wanted to echo what Councillor Bodley said, that, and I hope the motion was clear. It's a very long motion, but yeah, for residents, I mean, the bulk of what the work of the city does, the services and the programs that we offer for any of our recreation programs is for the general public and the beer league athletes like Councillor Bodley and myself. But you know, that's probably 80+%, maybe higher, of the purpose of the facilities that we have. But we do know, I mean, we just heard from Nor, and we heard from 6 other delegations that we also have tremendous athletes and tremendous potential, whether people who are born here, growing up here, or people who are coming here for other reasons and moving to Waterloo and Waterloo region. And we know we are, as kind of, I guess you could say, leaving athletic ability on the table because they're not getting the right opportunities or access to the ability to train. And quite frankly, I know from my own children's experience, one of whom was in running, like they often get recruited to the States to do their training, and we're sending some of our athletes out of country, and we know we're in a particular period where of some really significant political unrest in the U.S. and that's a real problem, right? Obviously, but that plays into it as well. So kids are if they're choosing to stay, in Waterloo or in Canada, we need to be able to, I think, give them some of the opportunities that they're for elite level training that they are choosing not to go to the U.S. for in some cases now. So, but the other thing I wanted to just emphasize was that, as I said earlier, this isn't something that's going to hit a property tax levy today or tomorrow or next year or anything like that. There's a lot of work to do from here to shovel ready. But I do think it's really important, as much as we focus on the issues and challenges and opportunities immediately in front of us, like the here and now, we also really need to plan for the future and have a vision for what our community needs and wants in many cases. And so that's part of our job that we have to balance as council every day as well. So that goes to some of the timing of why I've brought it forward now, because if we are going to be ready we need it now, but we also know that our city and region continues to grow. So if we are to be able to achieve this kind of vision that the delegates have laid out for us, this takes some time, and we really have to start the process now to really think with our eye on the future. So I certainly, again, really appreciate the delegates who've come in and spent your time this afternoon with us and sharing your stories. It's been really, really, I've learned more about pools and swimming, the various types of swimming and competitions. I've learned a lot about that. So thank you very much for sharing your stories with us. And I'll just, again, look to council for your support. Thank you.
Other comments, council? So I just had one. It's just really about recognizing the role that we try to play as a lower tier municipality, and that, last Monday we had a council meeting around development charges, and we had delegates in this chamber telling us to basically have 0 development charges, to lower the development charges, and to not collect development charges. And this is a great example of the fact that as you build community, the community needs access to any number of facilities, recreation being one, a new hospital being another. And there's this overarching expectation that somehow or another, as a municipality, we can find the money that grows on the trees, which we haven't found yet. And I agree with the comments that were made. It should be, I think remaining very focused on the fact that this is intended to be a public recreation facility, and just like we've done with the other things, I really like the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 comment that you made in terms of allocation, because it's a really difficult challenge. But, I just look down the road and I think, gosh, we have to have a really good plan if we move forward on something like this, where the operation and maintenance and running of this facility is a shared obligation, because the tax base cannot take this on. And who knows, what future governments are gonna do with things like development charges, and our ability to even have a toolkit of financial resource to be able to do this work. And I worry a lot about that, and because we as a city, we wear these decisions, and people think that we're spending their money left, right, and center, when in essence, we're trying to figure out how to share it amongst a lot of different pressures. And it's super difficult. I support the motion, for sure I do, because I think you're right. I think, we wouldn't have the Eastside Library if we hadn't had a plan in 2009 that said, this is what we need as a municipality. We need, a main library, 2 district libraries, and we can see that we need to make the investment in Albert McCormick because the time is right. That library needs to be bigger to serve that part of the community. And so I do think there's value in setting big, audacious goals, and that's what I see this motion as being. But I think too, to our partners, we need help. We need help with higher levels of government so that they understand that, and maybe it's, the school boards, their budgets are being completely removed as well, right? So, who becomes the partners? The universities are seeing unprecedented challenges for their budgets. And so I look at this and I really worry about that particular aspect of this. But yes, we need to build a plan. We need to have a goal before we can start figuring out all of those other difficult challenges. So with that, is there any other comments? With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. And I'll turn the podium back to you, Mayor.
Right, thank you very much, Councillor Freeman, for chairing that portion of it, and thank you, Council, for your support of this motion. A lot of work to do from now till, I was going to say now till shovel to breaking ground, but don't want to get too far. It is exciting, though, to say that we're going to start to really take a good hard look at this. So thank you very much. Okay, so there is no further notices of motion. There's no communications and correspondence. There's no unfinished business. Council, are there any questions? Seeing none. Any new business? Councillor Hanmer.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Just want to give a shout out to the renal program at Grand River or Wren Midtown that just celebrated its 50th anniversary, and it was phenomenal. Yesterday, I got to go on behalf of the city to present a certificate, and the current chief, Dr. Rosenstein, was almost in tears that we would recognize and remember. So it was very thoughtful that we had done that. Hearing from the patients was quite enlightening, and the value of everything that we're able to do for the patients, not just within the acute care facilities, but also in the community. As many of these patients are spending 3 or 4 days a week there, and one of the patients for 38 years was telling his story. So thank you to the staff who helped do all of this, and for all the work that we've been able to do to keep the renal program going in our community.
That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. Any other comments? I just briefly want to say that I don't know the exact calendar date, but we've entered, I believe, into the 16 days for recognizing gender violence. And Saturday was the walk with Women's Crisis Services. I know Councillor Rowe and I were there, and there was over 300 people walking. We walked 6 kilometers, and the 6 kilometers is the distance because one in every 6 days, there's a woman killed by her intimate partner in Canada. Every 6 days, so which continues to be a really shocking statistic. So we were walking to raise awareness and to raise much-needed funds for Women's Crisis Services of Waterloo Region, and over 300 walkers, $140,000 raised, and you can still donate. If you're interested. And of course, Saturday, December 6th is the National Day of Remembrance for the Montreal Massacre. So just remember that as well. Enactment of bylaws, moved by Councillor Bodley, seconded by Councillor Rowe. All in favor. Adjournment, moved by Councillor Wright and seconded by Councillor Freeman. All in favor. That is carried. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the evening. and have a great week.